Good morning. It is Saturday, May 17th, and it is sunny out here in Solar City and 40 degrees. Um, how am I doing? I'm doing medium fair, I would say. I had another hard night. I came back to the cabin and I wanted to upload all these videos because of what happened with the phone yesterday, and I was afraid of losing footage. And So I had this like mad urge to get everything uploaded, and that was taking a long time. And then I tried to go to bed, and I had on my mind, I had this dilemma. When I interviewed the Lakota woman, I told her, this is just for me to educate myself. I'm not going to use any of what you tell me. You can tell me anything. Um, and so I had this like, pretense of confidentiality. And then I realized, having uploaded the videos, that she may feel like I broke that. So, I mean, I didn't want to use anything that she said in the novel. And so at the time, I was speaking of the novel. So I was like, oh, I did a really white people thing, didn't I? And I was like, what should I do about this? And I, kind of tossed and turned and fussed about it. And I decided to text her some links and just see what she says. So I even was like, what if I say, I'm sorry, and offer her some money because I really liked the videos and what I had to say. And that very much mirrors the insult that the Lakota feel has been visited upon them by the reparations that have been offered to them. So they have claimed the Black Hills as their own, and time and again, the government has acknowledged in its way that they have a legitimate claim, but rather than give them the land back, they have been offered millions, and now maybe close to $1 billion, and they have refused. So I wrote about that when I did research years and years ago. I wrote about that and worked it into the novel, and I'll read you an excerpt later. Um, and then I wrote about the Sundance, and this is a Native ceremony that I researched in books and online. And when I was talking to the Lakota woman, she said that there is a taboo about talking about the Sundance and the Ghost Dance because those ceremonies are considered so sacred to the tribe that some members have shared the ceremonies online and captured them on YouTube for people to see, and they have been ostracized by yet other members of the tribe who feel that they should not have done that. That is taboo. So I thought that was interesting. Um, Other things on my mind. When I went to the res, I talked about my hometown of Lubbock, Texas, and described it as a dirt parking lot. That's not entirely accurate. It is an exurbia. It's a very suburban place, about a third the size of Paris in terms of land mass. When I grew up, it had about 250,000 people. It's very well developed. It's a major medical center. It's a college town. It's the home of Texas Tech University. And so it is not, in fact, a dirt parking lot. But in my defense, I was trying to get at the fact that we have lawns and trees and playa lakes, which are man-made lakes, and all of the vegetation there is not indigenous. So in my mind, that's not nature. That's cultivation. So, um, yeah, in terms of symptoms, I would say I'm doing like a 7 or 8 out of 10, 10 being the worst. I did get 4 or 5 hours of sleep on the floor last night. And when I don't sleep, I catastrophize. Uh, One of the supplements that I neglected to take with me on this trip is glycine. It was recommended to me by a woman who did neurofeedback therapy with me, and it is better than melatonin. And maybe we'll try to drive into town and get some of those. And then I was looking at screens, so that blue light from our phones and our computers is no bueno, no bueno. So it's no wonder that I've been having difficulties, but what are you gonna do? Um, Emotional flashbacking can happen, which I think happened a lot yesterday because of how similar the reservation was to my hometown. So every time I write something in fiction, there, well, not every time, but usually in a story or a novel, I'll get to a certain point. I'm approaching the middle of the climax, and then there's a crisis point. And it's because fiction, as I've talked about before, is liberating for me. It's freeing because it's not about me. And when people analyze the works of writers, they psychoanalyze the writer, right? Well, if the writer starts doing that to himself or herself in the process of writing, to me, that's the crisis point. There's a major problem. So that's another reason why I made such good progress and then I stopped on the novel because I started to make connections between what I was writing about and childhood trauma. So I was really like overwhelmed, and then I started writing more autobiographical pieces. I took myself out of the game, out of fiction. So yeah, um, Margaret Atwood. I'm going to talk about Margaret Atwood. She is my hands down all time literary idol. Okay, she is an oracle, and I hope that when people read my stuff, they think I do her influence justice in my style. But I the first book I read of hers was The Robber Bride, and I've read it about 3 times, I think, 2 or 3 times. And I started reading her as a girl, and as an adult, I've watched her in interviews, and I took her master class. So that's, I barely participated. I don't know why. They say that one of the worst things in life is to meet your idol. Um, she talked about how her parents were biologists, and that made a lot of sense to me because in her writing, there is this satirical bent that is based on her taking a very detached view of human behavior, almost like she is from another planet and she is observing, like a making clinical notes. Um, Sometimes I've heard her say things that are like mildly sociopathic, but I know that this is part of her process. Like she said, of her age, she said in an interview, um, somebody asked her something about her heart, and she said, I'm in my 80s. What heart? She reminds me of my grandmother on my mom's side. Very stoic. So, The Robber Bride is a novel about three women and a villain woman. It's like Designing Women. If you ever watched that show, there's like three women and they are very different from each other. And what they all have in common is that they have been royally screwed over by this other woman named Xenia, who is, oh boy, she is a class act. And Xenia ends up working her way into each of their lives and then stealing their men. And so Xenia is like this borderline waif. She uses people, she leaves carnage in her wake. Um, and growing up, I was like, oh, which of these characters am I the most like? Which of these characters? And then I read the novel for about the second or third time, and I realized that if you want to play the game of which of these characters is the author, you know, projecting himself or herself onto the most. And I realized after rereading it as an adult that there's a comedic aspect to it, okay? And maybe Margaret Atwood most identifies with Xenia, all right? But I say that in not in seriousness, but in a lighthearted way, okay? Writing gives us a chance to explore the dark sides of ourselves, our shadow selves, okay? Without necessarily really representing, you know, the worst aspects of ourselves. We can look at others and say, hmm, something to think about. Okay, so what have I not covered? Today's itinerary. I'm going to go into town and do some laundry, get some food, come back to the cabin. It is not raining today, and I think I will do some yoga outside.